Welcome to the first episode of DNA of Games. I'm your host Chris Goodyear, and I'm excited to kick off a brand new podcast series all about the talents of disabled and neurodiverse people in the games industry. This week I had an amazing chat with Antonio Martinez of Games Accessibility Nexus. Help us grow our podcast by becoming a Cloud Gang member and following, liking or reviewing on your favourite podcast broadcast tower. I won't judge. Hi and welcome to an episode of DNA of Games, which stands for Disability, Neurodiversity and Accessibility of Games, a podcast by many cats to really explore the talent that's out there in the disabled and neurodiverse groups, because I feel like there's not enough platforms for people like myself to tell their story and really share their passion for gaming. With me today, I'm really excited because we have Antonio Martinez, who is the founder, I would say, the founder, lead editor, all the shebang for the Games Accessibility Nexus, and I'm really excited to learn more about him. I've crossed paths with him a few times now, like mostly online, but I've not really explored much about like his sort of history and sort of why he does, you know, what he does as like an accessibility consultant, and really just like how he became an expert in this sort of area of games. So hi, welcome Antonio.
Hi, Chris. Nice for you to have me here. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm glad about that. I was forced here. So yeah, I think will really be interesting to really dive into basically how you became, you know, the founder of the Nexus, and you know, kind of your path to getting there. You know, I'd be really interested. You know, sort of how was school, for example.
Okay, so first of all, the way I entered into Nexus was simply because I was doing reviews in Can I Play That for a number of months with Connie and Susan. Sadly, she passed away. And after that, well, we went away, and I created my own site. I had a couple of friends from the community, Victor and Nale back then, with low vision, and she had a hard of hearing disability. And I thought, let's move all three together to do this new site. And that's how it started. And we started doing reviews.
Yeah.
We tried to do like very deep reviews and putting everything that we could into it. It really worked well. And then, you know, things change and people go and come. Then we had Morgan Baker join us, which was absolutely great. She's an amazing consultant, an amazing specialist, and her reviews were stellar. But the way that they're going to make reviews is just because back in the late 2018, I saw what they were doing in Kinda Play That before it was Kinda Play That.
Yeah.
And I asked, hey, would you be interested in someone having a mobility aspect? Because right now it's only about deaf. And they were like, yeah, we want to have all aspects. And I joined them. They gave me the opportunity. I was very excited. I was very nervous. But, you know, that's how it started. And then you gain confidence. You keep doing it. And then you find yourself making your own site and doing the same thing with the same passion for the same reason.
Yeah.
Giving for the information that they need.
It's great that they're seeing like the Nexus really does help people get a footing into like the accessibility space, especially if that's an area that they've got a personal interest in. Like, you know, people like Nikki, our community manager, obviously, you know, has written for you, and she really enjoys that. And you know, it really, in a strange way, the Nexus really is like a sort of a place where people can sort of get their teeth into, you know, the skills that they've got, you know, from their lived experiences, from their, you know, experiences of accessibility. And it's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just nice that,
Yeah.
you know, there's a place like that for, you know, people like ourselves to, you know, get a start, because there's not really a set path into accessibility, really, is there?
No, there is no path. Like, for example, when people say, oh, Antonio, you're an expert or whatever, like, I'm not an expert. I just played games for all my life, and I know what works for me and what doesn't work for other people, and I listen to people. And by listening to people is how you learn from their experiences, how you learn what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and you keep that all in your mind. And as you said, the big part of the Nexus is this fact that thanks to the things that, for example, Victor started making reviews. Now he's getting consultancy. Now he's getting into workshops. Now he's
Yeah.
doing like stuff, playtest. The same goes for Nikki,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what we try to do. We try to give someone a voice so they can start getting out there, and people say, "Oh, you have things that are really useful for us to listen and to learn." And well, now they get opportunities.
Exactly, like it's almost like a badge of honor to sort of write for the Nexus. It's really like, you get that like sort of seal of approval, and people go, "Oh, actually, you seem to know what you're on about because you've written for these guys." And now it's like, I want you to come in and do something consultant work for us.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a badge of honor. I mean, it's all yeah, they had the opportunity to show their skills, which is something that we don't have in real life all the time
Yeah,
because there's a lot of us. Social media is a great way to get in contact with developers by giving feedback about their games, about their releases these days.
yeah,
But overall, having a central site where you can just spread yourself and really go deep into what your experience with the game is and what is working with you
yeah,
for you or not, it can be much more revealing.
yeah. I like that. um, like my question would be then, did you always know that you're going to end up working in games, or was it something that sort of developed?
To be honest, when I was a kid and I discovered games, I thought this would be my dream game, my dream job, making games. But back then, there was nothing about game development because we are talking 1980s. Like, game development is not a thing, it's something that you learn by yourself, right? You go
Mm.
to the college, you study computer science, and then you figure it out.
He looked into games basically.
Yeah, but there was nothing for me. So I started coding back in the day for like databases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but no, there's really no way. But I always wanted to do it, and now I find myself that through consultancy, through accessibility, I have a shot at doing exactly what I always wanted to do, which is helping create games, but in a way that is different. When I was a kid, I simply wanted to create the games.
Mm.
Now I'm more into the idea of I want to help the games
Yeah.
be for everyone, or if not for everyone, for all the people that I know I can help, right? Like make sure that you are doing this right, listen to the people. I know what you need for mobility, someone else can do for other areas. So I just want to make sure that the same obstacles that I face these days and in the past are not going to be in the games in the future.
Mm.
Because it's very frustrating when you go into games and you cannot play them, or you are playing a game and suddenly with a condition like mine, which is SMA Type 3, by the way, which is progressive, it means that what I can play today, maybe in 3 months, I will not be able to play.
Mm.
And that's very, very frustrating and very sad for you when you have all those games in your library that you have not completed or you just want to revisit and you cannot do it anymore.
Mm.
Especially when it's a game online. I played some games online for like many years. Like I had like 500 hours in GTA Online. And then I had to stop playing it because I couldn't keep playing it. And I
Mm.
lost my friends there.
Yeah.
Other friends, on the other hand, I kept because we play other games, we talk for other stuff. But that group, that ragtag group that was like people from 13 to like 30 people and me with around 40. It was a really strange group, but it worked. We were having fun, and now I have been cut from them.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen to anyone else.
Yeah. Obviously, not great, but like it does highlight the situation of like disability, because sort of it can get worse. It can affect you at any point in your life. You might be only just a short period of your life where you may have a disability, whether that's like a broken arm, as simple as that. But you know I think people just miss that it could happen to them really easily, and it's kind of like, oh no, it could happen to you really easily as well. And you may have a condition, but it can progressively get worse, and that's kind of in the back of your mind, I guess, when you approach gaming, because you're like, oh, I'm enjoying this now, but will I enjoy this, 2 years down the line, will I still be able to
2 years,
play it? Yeah.
that's a lot. Like in 2 years, probably that's looking way too much. Because as you know, my disability, for example, gets more and more progressive. It means that in the past, my condition would get worse. Like once a year or so, you would feel like, okay, I cannot do this way anymore, so I will have to find another way. Whereas right now it's more like, okay, it's happening every 2, 3 months now every year, and now I cannot even play at all this type of game or whatever.
Yeah.
I can also, and it also has some kind of impact in your mental health, because as I'm creating content, I'm just writing a review.
Yeah.
I am not able to do it as I used to do it, and as much as I've been trying to do videos, I am not good at telling things in video, because I'm someone who always have been a writer. I used to write in school. I used to write as a teenage, as a young man. I started to write poetry and stories, and now I find myself, that I'm losing that too, and I don't want to do that. So I have to find ways to adapt, which is something that people with disabilities do very well, because we don't have other choice, because society is more about, oh, you should adapt to society, instead of let us find ways for making this more accessible, more uh, approachable for you, so you don't have to, oh, lose part of your life just because we don't want to change this building by putting a ramp, putting an elevator, whatever that is, because I had that all my life and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you? I was going to say, like, with obviously career-wise, do you see your career then like changing as you get older? Do you feel like it's still sort of going to be something that it'll be manageable, or are you just going to take it as it comes, sort of thing? Because I do know obviously you do consultancy as well as the Nexus and stuff like that. It's kind of like that sort of. Are you hopeful for the future, sort of thing? I think is the best way to go. Or are you just going to take it as it is?
I'm trying to find a job into Access Studio as accessibility consultant or in another position, because I feel that in game development I can still be useful, because I cannot type fine. I can dictate shorter text. I can create videos. I can record my talks. I can do stuff in other ways.
Yeah.
So consultancy also is also a lot of talking, meeting with people, explaining them what is right, what is wrong. Then you have to make some writing. Yeah, but most of it is talking. So I'm looking forward to getting a position at some point. I'm
Yeah.
preparing myself for it. I'm studying. I'm learning. Like I'm watching every conference that is out there. If I cannot assist in live, I watch the VODs. I try to learn from everyone in all the different aspects of disability. Doesn't matter if it's cognitive or whatever, because I don't think disability is something like, for example, if I have low mobility, okay, I have my experience and I have the knowledge that my friends share with me when we are playing, when we are talking. But what happens with people who are like low vision, for example, with Victor? Something that has been very, very positive for me is the fact that Victor became my friend through gaming and through the work in Nexus then, and everything that I have learned about low vision is thanks to him. And sometimes you don't need someone to explain to you things. You just get them because they are telling you while you're playing, and from their reviews and all that knowledge, it makes me a better advocate, not just for me, but for everyone.
Yeah.
Because everyone should be an advocate for themselves. I
Yeah.
cannot go and say, oh, I will talk for the people with low vision. No. But if I have knowledge about that, that is making me a much more valuable asset.
That's an interesting point on the whole, like, I guess being an accessibility like lead or designer. There's not really a qualification, not really a set standard qualification, like something like games design. So it's like you said, it's kind of like it takes a village, people. Like you have to learn from the different areas of the community and really absorb their knowledge, to sort of accumulate all in this like sort of expertise. And yeah, it's interesting that, like you said, like sort of you've got to reach out and sort of lean on those other people to say, hey, you know, you are so knowledgeable on, like, you know, visual impairment, like how can I learn more, and, you know, sort of really take it on board like that. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
for example,
sorry, I'm guessing the Nexus really helps with that, like, you know, sort of picking those people and be like, hey, you're really great at this, you know, and, like, and you know, you want to write, and then I can learn more off you.
yeah, it's a way to for all of us to learn from each other. And then Victor, sometimes he's like, "Oh, I played this game the other day, but I know that I know that it's going to be good for you because it has this option and this that works well for you, and it has this feature design." So he's also learning from what I need when we play together, when he reads my reviews. So it's all about. I think the disability community has one of the advantage, which is that we are learning from each other if we want, of course. I mean, there's no obligation to do that, but if you read tweets from people with different disabilities, you will just become a better advocate, a more knowledgeable person. And also, it's simply about the fact that disability is not one thing.
Yeah.
It's a big spectrum. It's a wide spectrum, and all of them are equally important to me. Like, yeah, I understand. I want the game to be physically accessible for me and for other people, but that doesn't mean that if I see a game that has like poor subtitles, no visual cues, poor sound design, I will not support and say, hey, this is wrong and it should be in another way. These people probably have good feedback for you. And I will try to highlight who can have that feedback, like Victor, Brandon Cole, or whatever, you know.
Yeah. You said obviously you had an interest in writing from an early age as well. Like, you know, how did that sort of come about? Was it just something you were naturally sort of drawn to, or was it something that inspired you to get into like being basically a writer?
I was inspired by reading, actually, because when you are a person who cannot do like the usual physical activities that other kids do, you tend to go towards reading. I always like fantasy books like Dungeons and Dragons in school, comic books, which back then it was like the nerdy thing. Like one kid in the whole school, in my whole class, was reading comics, me. Then another kid came and we were happy, we were fine each other. So it was through the reading. Also through the fact that I used to write stories, to write my own comics when I had the chance.
Yeah.
And then my language teacher always encouraged me to like, Antonio, you are good at writing in Spanish. You should maybe you can go for considering writing books or something. Even when I was like 18, 20 years old, she was keep telling me, write a book, write a book. I was like, it's too tiring for my hands. I cannot write a book. Okay, that's too long. Because I mean, I read The Lord of the Rings in like 1 week.
Yeah.
I could read books of like 300 pages in one evening, easy peasy.
Yeah.
And I always love the written word. I think it's very powerful if you do it right. As much as they say one picture is worth 1,000 words, I think there are words that can be much more powerful than any image that you give. And the opposite is also true. So, it's how do you say? The pen is stronger than the sword, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The penny's mightier than a sword. I think that's
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
that was the idea back in the day. And I always like. I mean, coding is basically writing. As much as people think it's different, it's not. You are writing a program. You are typing code that is going to make something happen.
Yeah.
That is the same as writing a book. You are telling a story that is going to make someone feel in a way. So we are all writers in our own way, with words or without them.
Yeah. I love that attitude. Like, yeah, I'm one of these people that are just like, oh god, I run away if it's a writing exercise. But I'm more of like a creative bunny. Like, I like drawing, I like art, like, you know, in terms of like just being like painting and messy with like things, rather than to the written word.
I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, and I could very good drawings. I even got a few diplomas in some contests. But then, it became much more harder for me.
Yeah.
And then when I discovered computers, I just fell in love with computers because they offered me access to do whatever they wanted. And I'm talking about all computers. We were like absolute uh, garbage compared to now. When in terms of like accessibility and the amount of tasks that you could do with them, because you could basically just code or play. That's what
Yeah.
you could do a spectrum. But the potential was there, and I really wanted to create stuff.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Is it, just sort of moving on to sort of our next part of the podcast where we really sort of delve more into your life as a disabled person, and obviously you've touched upon before with your sort of career, but how has having your condition really sort of, I guess, affected your life? And it sort of pushed you into sort of positive aspects, really negative aspects. Obviously, I feel like with you, it's going to be a bit of both.
Yeah. In a way, I wouldn't say that disability has had a very positive effect on my life. I would say it have had. It's just like any other person who struggles with things that happen in their life.
Hmm.
The only difference is that this is not like, oh, I'm having a bad day today. Tomorrow will be better.
Yeah.
No, you have to adapt to it. You have to learn to cope with it. You have to accept it. First of all, you need to accept this is my life, okay, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's the first line that you have to do, because if someone tells you like, oh, we have this that can fix you, or we can do things that can fix your attitude or your back or whatever, is it good for you from your medical standpoint or something like that? Is your choice always. But in terms of negative, well, I had people in my family who could die with me because of my disability. Very close people in my childhood. When I grew up and I got to my teen years, I started to be able to walk, and suddenly these people from my family were no longer in my. And I'm like, why are they not visiting me? Or they're busy with school. Oh, okay, okay. There, for example, there was like weddings coming up, and all the family came together, and I didn't see them, and they were like, "Are they even here?" Yeah, they're here. Where? And over time, you learn that from other people, they tell you this is difficult, but they tell you that they don't want to see you because they feel sad by seeing you like this, because they remember how you used to be, and they don't want to see you like this. And that's difficult and hard,
Yeah.
because on one hand, you shouldn't feel sad for someone. I mean, I understand that you want them to have uh, an easy life, but this is not about having an easy or a difficult life. It's more about, are you helping this person
Yeah.
keep their life? If you are going out of their life, you're making it harder for them.
Yeah.
That's what they did for me.
Yeah. You're born and raised in Spain, aren't you?
Yes, I was born and raised in Spain,
Um.
um, as Spanish as you get.
Yeah. I'm kind of obviously being a UK person, like I'm used to I guess the UK attitudes towards disability and that. But do you find what is the Spanish attitudes towards disability? I think is the question, I guess.
It has changed a lot, because remember that when we are talking about me being like a kid or a teen, that's around 13, 25 years old ago. So that's very long ago. So right now the attitude is more open. There is still some ableism there, because Spain is a very Catholic country, and we all have like the times that I have heard things like, this is a trial that God has put onto you, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, this is a blessing from God for you to teach others. I'm like, no, this is not a blessing. Trust me. I mean, I think you got the wrong meaning of the word blessing. Trust me. That's not
Yeah.
how, because people with disabilities are sometimes portrayed as these inspirational figures, like, oh, look at this person who is doing this despite the disability. This is a great example for us about overcoming your difficulties and overcoming the hardships in life, and you're like, really? No, it's just one person doing the best that they can to live their life in the same way that you do. The
Yeah.
only difference is that the society has put a lot of barriers in their way
Mm.
to do it. if I make your life harder, you will not think that you are being inspirational. You will think like, why are people making life harder for me than it should be? So that's it.
Has your family's attitudes changed at all now that you're obviously a bit older and obviously with the success that you're having now in your career, or they're
Uh,
still not really paying
my
attention?
family has always been like the core of my family has always been extremely supportive, extremely uh helpful with to me. Like they always try to find the school or whatever I was wanted to go to have good access, to have accessible classes, whatever I needed. They so there was a story from my school. When I went to school, I had to climb two s- two two steps of stairs. So it was like 20 step 20
Yeah,
steps
yeah.
every day, up and down 4 times a day. Okay, just to get to my class.
God.
They didn't have a ramp. They didn't have an elevator. When we asked for a ramp, they said, "It's just for one kid. It's not worth the cost."
God.
All right. Then, as time moved on, I could instead of having to go to the first floor every day, I would have to go to the second floor when I went to a higher class. And at that point, my body was saying, "You cannot even go to the first floor." So we asked to move the class to the ground level where the library was, and they gave us like all sort of complaints like, oh, first of all, we need to ask permission to the other fathers because, their kid will feel different and it's not fair for them. I will leave that there. And then when we finally got the approval from the parents, they said, okay, but we are not going to move the class now. You and your parents and the friends of your parents will have to move all the furniture, the books, all the stuff down to the library and everything that is to the library up to the first floor. And they did it in one day. Like my parents didn't even have one doubt and they didn't have to ask twice to the friends. My family was like, you need to do this, bam, it's done.
Yeah.
Like in your face to the director of the school, to the mayor, or the principal or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, they put a ramp in the main entrance. They were like, see, we have a ramp now. And they were like, okay, now I have to use it. And the ramp was like terrible. Like it didn't have even a handrail. It was very steep. It was very thin on the sides. So it was easy to just go up or down and just fall to the side. And I told them, that's not safe. I might fall. And they were like, no, no, yes, stay close to the wall. Then, like, I remember these things. I know that it might feel strange that you remember these things so vividly, but it's because they always stay with you.
Yeah.
And like a week later, a kid was playing in the ramp. He fell, broke one arm, and their parents went like full, like, with good reason because that was the danger, right? And now they put the handrail, and now I could use the ramp properly. And the funny thing is that the same people who were like telling me, we cannot put a ramp for just one kid, just for one kid. Now those people were using the ramp to like hold cargo and stuff up and down. And I'm like, that's fine. I remember one day the director who said that. I was sitting waiting for my mom to come pick me up, and he was pushing this cart full of books and papers, for to one of the classes.
Yeah.
And he was using the ramp, and I was like, is the ramp helping him? And he was like, yeah, it helps a lot. And I was a kid, and I was naive, and I was, not used to. But if I was me today, I would be like, but you can use the RAM because it's just for one kid, that's for me, dude.
There's like your own name plaque on it. It's like, hey, that's mine.
Exactly.
Just which
It's
sensible
mine.
just for me.
But no, there's the society has changed a lot. In
Yeah.
the latest years, like it's more difficult to find places that are not accessible. There are still places that will not have a ramp, but they have made a big effort. I even know that now my old school, which I can see from my window every day and have memories,
Wow.
now has two ramps. They have an elevator. Like they have gone where they need to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously frustrating that your experience had to be bad, but I guess it's also nice to see that. Oh, thank God they've advanced and they've moved on from this the shitty experience that I've had now that they're actually looking after the kids rather than doing like.
Exactly, because now I know that no one else will have those issues that they had. When I go to the doctor, I have the same issue. Like 5 years ago, I went to my breathing doctor, and the elevator was broken, so I had to go back through the laboratory in the cargo hold or in the cargo freighter. This
Yeah.
thing they have, and then they made adaptations, and now everything is fine. So there's improvement. Yes, it takes time.
Yeah.
Yes, like everything in accessibility, but we have
Yeah.
laws, and those are helping.
Do you think that those experiences, those like seeds of like pushing against the force of like, oh, why should we do this, and having those experiences of like people basically going, oh no, but actually fighting against that and then finally getting the solution that you needed, it's sort of fed into like now where you're doing this in games, when you see a game that's not doing the bare minimum, that you're more confident to be like, hey, you sort that game out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I have an attitude or something like that. I'm not an attitude person in my professional work or even in my personal life. I don't have much of an attitude, but yeah, it really helps because I think that when you can give them like examples of your life of things that you have gone through, they can see the parallels with things in real in games,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Why would someone do something like that? So we shouldn't be doing this in games too.
Yeah.
And I must say that in all my work, like I have never found anyone in a studio be like, "Oh, we will not do this." They just not know. It's just a matter of awareness. When they know about the issues, they
Yeah.
fix them. There is no evil developer going, "Oh, I'm not going to change my game because I don't want it to be accessible." I mean, there might be like one or two, but I haven't met them.
Mm,
None of them.
that's interesting. I guess good to hear as well.
They probably exist. I'm not saying no because you see some games and you're like, "How the hell?" And sorry for the, but
Yeah. I mean, this kind of really leads us into like our final section, which quite quite a nice link into gaming, and I really want to know about yourself and the those gaming moments that really sort of stand out in your mind. Of, yeah, I love this. This was amazing, or this was a great bit of accessibility that I never thought I would encounter.
Thing that surprised me over years is the fact that as your disability progresses and changes, so do your needs. So, for example, when I was a kid, I could play any game.
Yeah,
I could beat my friends all the time to the point that I realized right now that they were using the game mechanics and my disability in a way to try to beat me. Like games where you had to one mechanic when you I remember Dragon Ball Z, the fighting games. There was this mechanic when both of you throw a huge Kamehameha, the big attack that Goku does, and then when the attacks collide, you have to smash the button. The one who smashes
yeah,
faster wins. So since they couldn't beat me in terms of knowing all the moves, doing all the moves, and all that stuff, they would resort to that. They would go far away from me, shoot me the beam, and then beat me because of that. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be smarter than you. And what I did was I would load up my keybar higher than theirs. So when
yeah.
they do that, I would respond once and again, until they would respond, they would run out of key, and their character would be like, I cannot move. And they would take the blunt of the attack in the face, and they would be like, that's not fair. I'm like, oh, really? That's not fair? No, I'm just using the game mechanics to beat you. The game mechanics say you cannot throw an attack without keybar. You did it. Now you pay the consequences.
It reminds me of me playing with my sister, like whether that's sort of like Street Fighter or whatever. And obviously, I was more obviously the gamer and that. My sister just enjoyed them and would play with them with me. But like she assumed that she could spam buttons, so she could just spam the same attack over and over, and I couldn't work out how to get past her. So I was just always just getting kicked in the face on Street Fighter, and she was just like, "Well, this game, allows me to do this. It must be right."
That's one of the things that is funny for me is that I always loved fighting games. like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. I knew all the combos, all the movements. I would
Yeah.
beat them with every character. I would lose maybe like 2 out of 10 games, to the point where sometimes they were like, I don't want to play that game anymore. Okay, that's fine. We played another game. But I don't know. In terms of accessibility, I think the moment that shines for me like is when I was it was 2016, I think. I was trying to play. I've been playing games all my life, and back in those days, I was like in a position where I was having more problems with my hands. I needed to use voice commands for specific things, and I wanted to keep playing the same game, shooters, adventure games. And I couldn't play, for example, games like Assassin's Creed. I couldn't play games like Call of Duty, which I was playing before
Yeah.
in multiplayer and stuff like that. Not just because of the game, but also because of the people, But I don't care about the people that much. And the thing is that there was a point in my life when I thought, like, okay, I tried Assassin's Creed 3, I had problems. I tried Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I had problems, but I still loved it because it was the first open world game, and that gave me a freedom that I had never experienced in any game before, except for Mass Effect, But back then I didn't have the same level of disability.
Yeah.
And now I find myself in Syndicate trying to play and trying to do specific things, and I couldn't. And I was like, you know what? These games are no longer for me. And that felt really bad. So
Hopefully,
when they
hopefully
announced,
it's more the case of like just now. It's not for you now, but hopefully with the game development, becoming better at accessibility, there might be more solutions for you down the line to go back to the
exactly, so
games that you love.
and that's where things change, because that's why important that game was for me, is the fact that after that I didn't even want to pay attention to what Ubisoft wanted to offer me. Um, I had lost a lot of money, I had invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I was like, I don't want to know anyone else, nothing else from Ubisoft games. And then one day, 2 days before Assassin's Creed Origins release, I haven't watched any trailer. I'm not keeping on the news, but I go to Twitter and I read in a magazine, this game is coming in 2 days. Can watch the stream or whatever, And I was like, I wonder how it is.
Yeah.
Just to take a look at the graphics, And I go into a stream from a small streamer. He had like 5 people. He starts the game, and I realize that he's fighting this guy in the first scene, and he just pushes a button, and he can put the shield up. You don't need to hold it. I'm like, whoa. And I think, can I make you a couple of questions, if you don't mind, in the middle of the stream? Like, yeah, sure. Because he was a really nice guy. Small streamers tend to be like really nice compared to like big streamers, because whatever.
Yeah.
And I asked him, okay, so can I change all the keys? And he was like, yeah. Okay, and when you are aiming your bow, do you need to hold down the button, or can you just toggle it? Or you can toggle it, see? And he showed me the menu. And when he showed me that, I was like, I can play this game.
Wow.
And I subscribed to his channel. I said, dude, this is just like €5, but thank you, because you have helped me. I ran away to the dealer store. There were no physical store editions anymore. So I went to buy the most expensive edition that I could of the game, with everything, all the extra screens, whatever.
Yeah.
And those 2 days I had to wait for the game were like super long, but not because I was thinking, will I be able to play the game? I didn't feel like any kind of anxiety, or, it was more like, I can play that game. I want that game now. I want it now. I need it now.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, pretty much what everybody has anyway. Of like when you wait for pre-release, you're just like, okay, we're watching my Amazon delivery like slowly go towards my door.
Exactly. And from the moment I ran the game, I could play it. Yeah, I needed still some voice commands, and over time I needed more. But that game, and I have that game on my Twitter account banner for that reason, and have a poster of that game behind my door, because every time that I feel unmotivated or I need a reminder of why I do what I do or why, I look at that game and think that game opened my eyes to the
Yeah.
fact that the it's I am not the problem. The
Yeah.
game is not made right. Second, and most importantly, there is people working on this stuff. There is accessibility specialist like Ian Hamilton,
Yeah.
who was the person who coaxed me out of this nightmare of the social media and put me in contact with the guys at Ubisoft and said, "Hey, this person has feedback for you." And then the fact that people were working actively toward accessibility, it was the first time I heard that, and that blew my mind. And I thought I want to be able to help these people. I want
Yeah.
to tell these people how to make games even better for me and for others, and I want to be show them my appreciation for their work, because what they do is not just, we are making the games better. No, they're making people's lives better. They're allowing us to go into the same space as other people, having the same experience and being part of the same hype, same community, discuss the same stuff.
Mm.
It's it's
Yeah.
amazing what they do. I have nothing but gratitude for the people. And
Yeah.
now, instead of that, with the switching the industry, instead of going, oh, there's this guy coming up. Who is it from? Ubisoft. I'm like, yeah, because I know that they're going to be accessibility in it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really think about gaming culture like in the accessibility space. Like, actually, it's great the fact that when you make your games more accessible, you actually making the game culture around your game more accessible. Like, you felt more part of the hype. You more basically like every other like sort of gamer out there where you're like, oh yes, I can't wait for this game to come out, sort of thing. That excitement. And I didn't really appreciate that could have been lost, if games weren't accessible. And it's like you say, it's nice to be just a part of the general community, like to be excited for a game coming out, to talk about what you're going to do when you kind of get your hands on it and finally jump into it, and I'm going to go there first and do this and do that. And it's kind of like that's a golden reason why we should do accessibility. It should be just that you don't that's why people make games, that exciting bit of like people are so excited to get in your game and just talk about it, and like you say, make your life better than just having that enjoyment, because the world's on fire at the moment. Like, it's just nice to have these moments where you can just forget all that and just jump in and have genuine excitement and love and, sort of fun, even if it's just for, a couple of hours.
Yeah, I just wanted to feel the same thing that I felt when I remember when I completed Mass Effect back in the day, when my disability allowed me to do it because I didn't have any barriers. I felt like it was an amazing game. I was like, this is the best game I ever played. It has good narrative, good combat. I drive this stupid vehicle around moons and it doesn't make any sense. And I loved it. And when you beat the bad guy in the end and, the music starts playing, you're like, yeah, this feels like a big production, a big movie. And then being able to be in an open world like the ones in Assassin's Creed or any other kind of game like that, it gives you so much freedom. A lot of time when I'm feeling down,
Yeah.
the only thing I do is I fire one of those games, I go to my horse, and I just take a walk through the world, and
Yeah.
climb a mountain and see the sunset or watch the moon. I do
Yeah.
things that are normal. Well, I mean, it's not very normal to climb up like this huge tower and jump down into a pile of hay. Also, it's not safe, by the way. Don't do that, please, in real life. That doesn't end well. But it feels powerful. It feels liberating for me.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It takes me out of my negative mental space and back
Yeah.
into reality. And
Do you think that's why games are so loved by disabled and neurodiverse people? Is because of that, like, escapism and the just enjoying things that people take for granted, like you say, like even it's just like visiting somewhere, even though it could be make believe.
exactly, because for example, I always love to travel, but my body won't allow me to do it. Games allow me to do it. Even tools like there's things that people don't appreciate, like for example, Google Maps. Google Maps allow you to go everywhere and take a picture of anywhere. So now I'm going to places that I could never go. I
Yeah.
just open Google Maps to go there. But games are much more powerful. The sound, the music, the narrative, you feel you are there. And also as someone who can like I was able to walk, I was able to kind of do stuff. And also games give me confidence and they allow me to gain confidence enough to start learning taekwondo. And that's which is great. I mean, I felt much connected to the people. When I was a kid, also games allowed me to connect with my classmates on a different level. Because until that, well, I told you before, I was this kid with like comics and stuff like that, but I couldn't take part in sports, right? And when you can take part in games,
Yeah.
oh, now you're a game. Now you're part of us,
Yeah.
And we invite each other to the house to play, and it opened my social life so much. So I think games are like the best form of entertainment for anyone because it puts you at the center of the story and it lets you be who you want to be. That's why I love, for example, role playing games. You want me to be the hero? I'll be the hero. You want me to be the villain? I'll be the villain. Let me be who I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. And, that's kind of a wonderful note to end on. I really appreciate you sort of talking about a bit like your life and, I guess to sort of showing people why you're passionate about games. It's nice to understand where it comes from. I think a lot of the time people don't know that aspect of people. So is there any way for people, listeners, viewers to follow you online? Have you got like a Twitter you can share?
Yeah, sure. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at my Twitter handle is Black1976. That is BLACK1976.
You got exactly there,
And
so
you
people should be
also,
following.
yeah, and you also can follow us on Games Accessibility Nexus. That is GAMEA11YNEXUS.
So sort of mums there typing it like down very slowly. Like, oh great, he's really spelled it out for us. Yeah, I would recommend seriously everybody who is interested in your work to check out the Games Accessibility Nexus, which is on gamesaccessibilitynexus.com. Check out the sort of latest reviews and stuff like that. You might even see some sneak work from Nikki in there. And again, thank you for being a part of this episode. I really appreciate it and look forward to what you do in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to see your next podcast too. Thank you for you too.
All right. Bye everyone. Join us again in 2 weeks as I chat to another disabled person in the industry. Be the proud social media generation you are and like and share this episode. And if you are a wealthy millennial, you can support us on Coffee. Link in description. Make it this week's good deed. See you next time.